All right, everybody, welcome to this episode of Today with Jared James. I am Jared James, and I am joined today by someone I'm actually really excited. You know, a lot of times I do this and I say that I'm excited, but I'm actually excited today. I am joined by somebody I think we're going to have a great conversation. I think it's one that many people right now probably want to hear. And I am joined by, I'm not going to mess this up, Rory Golod, which is the president of Growth. Am I getting that right?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Now, what is, first off, welcome, Rory. I got the name right. What is a president of growth and how do you get there?
Yeah. So, first off, thank you for having me here. And I know this is actually a special day for you because it's your anniversary with your wife.
Oh, wow. Good. Right on, man. Yeah, that is, that's impressive.
I saw that. So
now, who was the guy helping you in the beginning?
Jacob.
So did Jacob tell you that? Or do,
Well,
or do you?
I mean, I follow you, so I saw the post, but he did remind me. So Jacob's my chief of staff, a good chief of staff. So I was like, hey, this is what's going on.
I appreciate that, man. It's our 1 year, man. So it's cool. I'll tell you about another time.
Those are the fun anniversaries. When you get to like, you get further down the road, they start getting like a lot less exciting.
Rory, I did before.
Got it. So yes,
that's a separate podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That's a different podcast. So
by the way, where are you from?
So I live in New York City right now.
We're like right near each other. We should have done this in person.
Where are you?
Connecticut. Dude, I'm an hour outside of New York.
Amazing. Yeah. So yeah, where our headquarters is in Manhattan. So I'm in our Compass headquarters today. My title is President of Growth and the West region. So at Compass, I oversee all of growth. So for us, that's basically bringing agents into Compass, bringing companies into Compass, growing the business. So effectively like growing revenue. And then I also oversee half of the core business, so half the country. My colleague, Neda Navab, runs the East region. So that's basically Chicago and East, all of our offices and operations. And I run the West, which is west of Chicago.
All right.
And so I've been here. Yeah. How do you get here? 10 and a half years. I joined when we had less than 30 people in the whole company. We weren't even Compass yet. We were Urban Compass. And it's been a heck of a ride, a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, though. I love this company.
That's awesome, man. Good. Yeah, we should have done this in person. I didn't even realize that.
The next one.
I'm in New York. I'm in New York all the time. Like that is, we're an hour outside. So, well, first off, man, like I said, I appreciate you being on. I'm sure a lot of people would like to have you on right now and would like to set you up for a very antagonistic interview. Let's be honest.
That's all
I think one of the reasons I'm going to enjoy this conversation is because you said you follow. Thank you for the anniversary wishes, but if you follow, you know that I kind of watch all the different sides, and I'm kind of slow to take a stance, and then I don't even mind changing my mind when I'm on a certain way, because it's just kind of like, okay, new information, new whatever it is. But as we get into this, I'm not. It's so funny because I'm not somebody who's anti anything what different places are trying to do right now. I mean, that's where innovation comes from. I own a tech company called First Up, which literally was built with the idea of brokerages and otherwise being able to pre-market listings. It was built in a way that was done in a compliant manner according to clear cooperation and all those kinds of things. And we've had people now who are interested in buying it and such, and want to use it for other things, and that's completely up to them. That's the reality of the industry we're in right now. I was just listening to an interview with Ryan Schneider from Anywhere. And he was talking about his feelings on clear cooperation. And then I heard him say in that exact same interview, but if the industry goes the way that some think it's going to, we're prepared to also do private listings and do it's kind of like, where's it going to go? Right. So I'm interested from you as we just kind of like rapid fire down here. What is I assume your stance is the stance of Compass. What's your stance on clear cooperation? Do you think it should exist or no?
I do not think it should exist at all. I think, it's worth being transparent, right? People love throwing around the word transparent. Like, what is clear cooperation? Clear cooperation was the Compass rule. It was created to slow down Compass. It was created really as a offshoot of if you go back before 2020, Compass back in 2018, this was actually an initiative I launched, which was our coming soon concept. And Robert shared this a couple weeks ago. The idea for coming soons at Compass came from Zillow, right? Zillow launched coming soons in 2014. They did a big press release around it. It was their concept. The exact language, if you read it, it's so crazy because you're
Look,
reading.
man, we could do a whole thing just on the hypocrisy. Like, I'm not saying I'm pro anti. I'm just saying, like, there's been a lot of hypocrisy from over there. Like,
There's quite a bit of it. And so, we had this concept that, again, we didn't invent, that existed long before us, but it was one that agents wanted. Agents wanted to be able to leverage pre-marketing strategies. Every industry takes advantage of it, right? Hollywood does it with movie trailers. Fashion brands do it with clothing. None of them just put all the inventory in a store. They do a runway show. Certain stores get certain pieces, and then they debut it, right? Obviously, Tesla's great at this. How'd they sell tens of thousands of the ugliest truck that's been designed in the last decade or two? It's because they were able to pre-market it. And obviously, the
it
ultimate—
looks like that game my kids play. What's it called?
Minecraft.
It looks like Minecraft.
I had friends staying with me this past weekend, and their kids were playing Minecraft. And what I was trying to understand is, if it's 2025, why are the graphics 1995? Like, it's the graphics are terrible. I guess that's the part of the vibe.
Yeah, it wins. It wins.
Yeah. And then also, actually, the best pre-marketers in the world are actually in our industry: home builders and developers, right? Like, home builders have been selling listings way before they ever got to the MLS, off the MLS completely. They're selling homes off of floor plans, right? Because they know how to leverage pre-marketing. And so we started to, really embrace this concept. Our agents embraced it. Coming Soons got really popular. We had thousands of Coming Soon listings that were on compass.com for the world to see, that had not yet gone to the MLS and gone on the market. And the vast majority of them went on the market and went on the MLS. And NAR got together and said, you know what? We can't have this, because if there's listings and inventory that's not in the MLS, it threatens the monopoly that we have and the control that we have over the industry. So we're going to create a rule that forces agents and homeowners to have to give us the inventory, because, let's face it, they survive off of getting all of our inventory for free, and then they can monetize that and use that inventory to create rules and control the industry. And that's why they did clear cooperation, because without clear cooperation, they don't get the free inventory.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, because I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm hearing about these other places and movies and all that stuff, and I will say, like I said in the beginning, man, I can play both sides of this. Like, I completely see your side, and then I see, I get calls, Leo's a good friend of mine. He's like, I can see it all. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, I can see that. Hey, that makes sense too. Is it fair to say that you guys do draw a lot of motivation, and there's always this idea of, like, think outside the box, but, like, would it be fair to say you guys do try to think outside the industry? Meaning that, take your ideas and just don't get stuck in the way that everybody else here thinks, that you are looking at other industries for inspiration?
Absolutely. The inspiration starts with our agents, right? Every great idea we've ever had, it's not been because myself or Robert or one of our leaders has stayed up late on a whiteboard and sketched it out. Every great idea, great concept we've ever had, we've gotten from our agents. And it's either been our agents' ideas or our agents saying, hey, this company or entity or person is doing this thing. Can we do it, and can we do it better? So every idea comes from them. The whole concept on pre-marketing and Coming Soons and the Compass 3-phase marketing strategy, it all came from our agents. And so we then take those ideas and then we just obsess over them.
Yeah.
And we don't think about the industry as the boundary. We think about, what are just limitless possibilities? How do we just make it better and better and better? And we have an obsessive mindset on making things better. And so I think that oftentimes we have been a company that's pushed the envelope, that said, how do we create programs, infrastructure, systems, technology, whatever it is, that can help create more value for agents and their clients? And we're not confined to the industry. The only sort of limit to what we can create is the capacity and the people that we have.
Do you find that, because this is interesting, because I can relate to that on some level. In a perfect world, I'm going to explain why I'm asking this question. In a perfect world, would you rather see an industry without NAR in it, And what I mean by that is that I can relate completely to what you're saying. It's like you try to just like think of things without boundaries and go, what's best? What do we have here? And then you end up running into what you guys would probably define as bureaucracy, where it's like, okay, but now we got to jump this hoop and that hoop and that hoop.
Yeah.
And you probably find yourself sitting in a room going, why? Why is that there? Like that, why are we having to come up with solutions to made up problems?
Yeah, that's a great way
I'm just trying to think of it from my perspective from an entrepreneur. Like I've had this in many other things where I'm just like, why is that there? Clearly somebody justified their job by making a rule, but that rule doesn't make sense. Would you, in a perfect world, operate in an industry that did not have NAR because of that, or am I off base with?
Yeah, it's sort of, you're right. A lot of times we're looking at this and scratching our heads and are saying, who asked for this bureaucracy? Who asked for these rules, this control? Like, why aren't we working backwards from the core client, the core customer, which in this case is agents? You know, I always say, like, how many agents raised their hand and voted for all the stuff that we are seeing now in the industry? None. And if they were all, if we were all to get together as a group right now and say, let's rebuild the industry from the ground up, nobody would suggest most of the nonsense that we have right now. Nobody. So we already know that it's not right. Now, NAR or no NAR, we're sort of agnostic to it. We're not anti-NAR, not anti-Zillow, not anti-MLS. What I am is pro-agent, pro.
I was going to say, you're pro-Compass. You're like, just stay out of the way, try to help with some stuff, do some whatever,
and honestly, beyond Compass, I'm really just pro-real estate agent. Anything that's good for real estate agents is good for Compass, because again, our whole reason of existing is to support agents, help them grow their business and make more money. The more agents at Compass that grow their business and make money, the better Compass does. Now, what I am against is a trade group masquerading as a trade group, but is really not a trade group. They are an organization that sets policy and rules for an industry, and it's not a choice to participate. If you're an agent in this country, if you do not participate in the MLS, you can't do your job. So therefore, you're forced to use it. And if you're forced to participate and pay NAR dues, and then you have to live by their fines and their structures and their rules, and you didn't vote for those rules, you didn't advocate for them, and those rules are not actually advancing the industry, and in many cases are hurting the industry. Just look at last year, right? We brokerages all had to pay millions of dollars in settlements for rules that we did not create, for lawsuits that we did not, we weren't really a party to, if you really look at the core issue, even though we were certainly included in it. And so what I would love to see is an industry where MLSs are important, they're strong, they're needed. I'd love to see an industry where the actual...
So you do believe in the MLS and having it there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to see an industry where NAR is taking the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that they get from agents every year and using that to actually do things that agents want, not spend that money on the nicest boardroom that you've ever seen. I've been in a lot of investment funds offices, a lot of investment banks, hedge funds.
That wasn't a good look. Let's be honest.
I've been in some of the nicest commercial offices in the world. I've never seen a boardroom like theirs. And then you see things like $40,000 trips to South Africa for 5-day vacations. And the executives, why is the CEO of the largest state organization in this country getting paid $1 million a year? And then they're trying to outlaw off-market listings when the average agent makes $50,000. If I'm an agent, I've paid NAR and my local association, my MLS, thousands of dollars in dues and then thousands of dollars in fines. And what have I gotten for it?
Brokers and team leaders, first off, thank you for watching the podcast. I want to really quickly let you know about a new company that you're going to hear me talk about a lot, which is StackWrap. If you are a broker or you are a team leader, this is an absolute must for your business. If you have agents on your team in your brokerage, you know what it's like to pay for a bunch of technologies, to pay for a bunch of things that you know will help them, but they just don't adopt. And let's face it, one of the things in today's world is that there are so many cool tools and technologies and things that are there to help us, but we also have a million different bookmarks and a million different sign-ins, and we don't know if anybody's using anything. But the real win is in the adoption.
Stack Wrap, similar to how you've heard me say to agents lately, how we've got to get our consumers into our ecosystem, Stack Wrap does just that for your agents. It takes one place where all of those things they have in their bookmarks, all of the forms, all of the Jared James Academy, all of their CRM stuff, everything, puts it in one spot, single sign-on, and gives you the ability to see what they're going to, has a heat map, lets you see what they're using, what they're not, gives you the ability to send them notifications, gives you the ability to have announcements, and all of these things all in one place like a cohesive team, which is what you ultimately want. So if you're a team leader or a broker, make sure head on over to stackwrap.com, stackwrap.com. And like I said, I can't recommend it enough, guys. This is one that you absolutely need. It's affordable, and more importantly, it's going to get the results for you and your team or your brokerage that you want. So stackwrap.com. Let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, man,
What have
like,
I got for it?
yeah, it's, man, before
And by the
all
way,
of that came out.
I
Good.
paid all that. Sorry to interrupt, but I paid all that money. And then what you did is you took all my listings and you gave them away to entities, and you monetize my listings, right? So the MLSs sell my data to mortgage companies, to appraisal companies, to
Portals,
marketing companies, to then they give the inventory to the portals. Now the portals take my listing, my photos, the listing that I had to hustle to convince the seller to give to me, to work to get, and then they take it and then they monetize it. And when you look at this, whether it's Zillow or NAR, effectively they have free labor and free inventory. It's almost as if, imagine they're Netflix and they have every TV show in the world, but they don't have to pay $1 to the actors, actresses, writers, or directors. It also it actually reminds me a lot of the NCAA. It's almost like the agents are college athletes pre the new rules. Yeah. They work for free. They get exploited. Their content, their name, their likeness, their image is used to generate either infrastructural power and control or clicks and eyeballs. And they don't get a check. They don't get anything for it. So, which is a sort of separate issue than our push on homeowner choice. We believe that homeowners and agents should have the right to decide how they market homes. But I don't think, if you were to just ask 100 agents, I don't think anywhere, I would guess the vast majority would say that they are not satisfied with what they've gotten from NAR and their MLSs, especially in the last couple of years.
Can you kind of define, as we get into it here, there's been all this talk about the 3-phased marketing approach, right? And for anybody who's listening, it's easy for us to sit here and go we understand it, because we kind of live in that bubble of understanding these things and whatever. What is, for anybody listening right now, not from another source, not from another whatever, what is, straight from your mouth, whatever, what is the 3-phase marketing approach?
Yeah. So very simple. Phase 1 is I go to a seller. I say to the seller, we have multiple ways to sell your home, right? We have choices. We have options. If we follow the 3-phase marketing strategy, this is what it would look like. Phase 1, and maybe you're not ready to put your home on the market today. Maybe we need a couple days actually to get things ready to go. Maybe we need to clean the home. You're not ready to even start listing it. Maybe we still have to actually get our agreement signed, but we want to get a jump on it. We want to figure out how the market is going to react to it. We want to test price, because maybe you're saying you believe the home's worth $800,000 and I'm telling you the comps say $725,000. So we got to figure out where should we be priced? We got to figure out what the feedback is from the market. How should we position it? All this information that we want to glean and gather, we can put it as a private exclusive. So it's not fully on the market. I, as your agent, will only be seen by agents in my firm for a couple days. That will allow me to build up interest, build up anticipation, get feedback that's really valuable, figure out if we want to test or do price discovery, and do all of this stuff so that while we're getting ready to go to market, we're not accruing days on market. If we do decide to go with a different price, we don't have a public record of a price change or a price update. And so we can do that. And let's do that.
And that is going to Compass agents only? Is that only within the brokerage? Is that Compass overall?
No, that is going to all agents within the brokerage of a company that does that. So let's say it's Compass. That means Compass agents and their clients can see the property, right?
But
Now,
but only within the brokerage where it's being listed, or all of Compass?
well, so all of Compass, any agent that's at Compass.
Gotcha.
Now, some markets allow you to share private exclusives and off-market listings with other firms, and let me be really clear, because I've heard some people say, well, Compass is just doing this to double end deals. They don't want to share their inventory. We would share every private exclusive we have if the entities we shared it with promised to not modify, change the listing, right? Meaning you can't put a different listing agent on the listing, and they agree to not monetize it. All right. It's very simple. If you look at right now in Chicago, MRED is the MLS of Chicago. MRED has their own private exclusive network for all the brokerages that participate. It's an excellent system. So if you're an agent at a different firm and I'm an agent at Compass, you put in a private exclusive, I put in a private exclusive, we go into MRED, we can see each other's private exclusives.
But
right?
it's not modified. It gives credit to the original person. There's none of that.
And if tomorrow every MLS in the country adopted MRED's infrastructure, we would be so happy.
You're saying Compass would say, great, that's what we're doing. We're good to go.
I would be cheering for that. I want to be able to share private exclusive inventory with other agents and other brokerages. The NAR rules, the Zillow listing ban, are the things that are preventing us from doing that.
When you say the NAR rules, are you talking about clear cooperation, meaning that once it gets shown to another agent, now that's technically public, and it's like you've got 24 hours to throw it on the MLS, otherwise you get fined or you get banned. Yeah,
exactly. And Zillow is now saying if it's not on our website, you can't put it on the internet. So we want to share them.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the listing book, right? A lot of people
it's on the list of questions.
So we'll get there. But the reason we created a listing book, we didn't have a desire to create a book. We're usually a pretty tech focused.
Tell everybody, just so you know. So assume they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you guys went with, and I don't mean this in like a whatever. I just mean like old school, like paperback, like booklet that goes into the office type of thing.
Yeah,
and it's specifically for your private exclusives.
That's right. So people were saying, you're only doing this to hoard inventory. You're only doing this to, and it really, the people, like, candidly, I don't follow the industry very closely. I don't really listen to a lot of the noise outside of Compass. We really are a company that we just kind of put blinders on and just focus. The entities I really listen to, some of the influential voices in the industry, people like Rob Hahn, other real estate coaches, and I listen to our agents. And so
what you're saying is you don't want the noise of the industry hindering however it is that your mind is thinking about trying to innovate or be different. Exactly. You want to first come up with, from the perspective of what's best for our agents, what's best for the consumer, what's best, and then you can kind of open the door and see what stuff is out there that's hindering it.
Exactly. Because look, for the decade plus that we've been, building this company, the noise outside of Compass has been consistent, has been unrelenting, and has been incredibly negative. And so if we were to listen to it, we wouldn't actually make any progress. But the same noise, the same voices that are saying whatever they're saying now, were saying a couple of years ago we were going to go out of business. And then a couple of years before that, they were saying, we were the next WeWork. And then they were saying we'd never make it past the first couple of markets we were in. And then we would fail and we would go out of business and all of this stuff.
Yeah, you're buying your agents, you're doing your,
So by ignoring, it's actually it's really freeing. I don't listen to any of this stuff, and I don't listen to any of the opponents because I don't work for them. They don't matter in that context. I work for our agents. And so
you have to hear something in order to know how you respond. What is the message we get to our agents? Because your agents sure as heck listen to it. And so it's like, what's our response?
And that's kind of the filter. I let our agents really be the ones to say, here's what we're hearing. This person's saying this person's saying that. And look, at the end of the day, we're busy. I mean, we're running the number one brokerage in the United States. We have 40,000 agents. I don't have time to just sit around and pontificate about, what's going on. And so we really work with those agents and the agents here. What they were hearing was agents that their colleagues at other firms were saying to them, hey, we feel like you're just doing this to hoard listings, right? You just want like a walled garden. You want to hold back inventory. And so we said, okay, what can we do to show people that's not actually what we're trying to do here? And then we looked at the rules that exist, because in a perfect world, we just take all of our private exclusives and just share them digitally with all the firms in every market, so that every firm and their agents could see their private exclusives.
And what would be the difference between, once you're sharing with all firms, what's the difference between that and just putting it out public? It's the idea that now it's not going to portals still and out to consumers. It's more just going to the people in the industry.
Correct. It's just following the same structure that they do, and whether it's.
And I want to be clear, just so everybody hears this, because this is, we're going to have a lot of people who are going to watch this and listen to this, and they're going to want to know like what your stances are. There's been a lot of misnomers and truths, and we want to hear directly from you. In your perfect world, you are saying that Compass would like to take those pre-market listings and share them with the whole industry, and if the rules change, you will.
Absolutely.
Right now, you're hindered by the rules.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
That is
so phase one is that what's phase, quickly, because the other two don't matter as much. What's phase 2 and 3?
So, and we'll come back to the book in a little bit. So that's phase 1. And usually phase 1 lasts a week, 2 weeks. It's usually a couple of weeks.
That's determined between the agent and the seller?
Correct.
Okay.
Everything is up to the seller. Phase 2 is then it goes on compass.com as a coming soon. Now consumers can see it on compass.com. Now that the world can see it. Now it's on our website, but we don't show days on market. We don't show price changes or status changes. We show the listing agent, right? And we don't have any negative insights. We don't have a price estimate attached to it. We don't have a little box that says, lowball the bid if you want to get this house. Like, it's just the unencumbered, unadulterated listing.
Pure data about the property, interested, not interested. Exactly. There's no, it's been on for 27 days, none of that.
Exactly. And that's on our website. And anyone can go on our website. You and I as consumers can go on, agents can go on, and that broadens the reach, because Compass is one website. We don't have all the traffic, right? So that broadens the reach from a private exclusive. Now it's a coming soon. We're building up the interest and the anticipation list even further. Maybe now we start to schedule some showings. We start to let people know like, hey, this is coming out. It's coming soon, which means it's coming to the market. And then we do that for a period of time. Let's call that a week. And then we go to the full market. And that means it goes into the MLS, goes to all the portals, the hundreds of sites that get syndicated to. And now you have a listing that's arrived on the market where you've built up interest, you've built up anticipation. You maybe have already some showing requests. If you were allowed to show it already, maybe you've showed it already. You don't have to accept bids during that first 2 phases. Like some people have said, oh, you're leaving money on the table. It's the seller's choice what price they want to take. If someone puts in a bid for a home and it's not the number you want, you don't have to take it. But now that it's on the market, let's say you had it in phase 1 and 2 for 2 weeks altogether. You just saved 2 weeks of days on market.
I was going to say, like, if I'm listening to this and right or wrong, like your stance, it sounds like is the idea that especially you guys tend to deal in a higher end market, not everywhere, but that tends to be your market, which can have more days on market because you have less of a market that can buy a property. Correct. Is your stance the sense that with our particular company, this allows us to hit the ground running the moment those days on market start, especially for the type of clients we serve?
Exactly. Now, what we've seen is now it goes on the broad market and, hopefully the home sells. Now, we've been doing this for agents have been doing this for a long time. We did not invent this concept. We just branded it. But the idea of pre-marketing has existed in our industry for a long time, and very savvy agents have been doing this. We put in this sort of branded Compass 3-phase marketing strategy. It started to get incredible traction. The thing that I always remind people of is agents are independent contractors. You can't force them to do anything. We've launched initiatives before that have not been popular. We've also launched initiatives that have been very popular. The adoption of the things that we do is effectively the barometer of the value to the agent and their end client, right? Agents are not going to do something if their clients don't think it's valuable.
The agents, your brokers are the proof of concept, so to say. It's like this worked, this didn't work, keep it, don't keep it. It depends on what happens.
Exactly. A great example of that. Compass Concierge, right? So we launched Compass Concierge in 2018.
Right. That was what were the contractors and the
exactly.
fixing up the home.
we front load the cost of home improvement services. So we go to the seller and say, hey, we're going to take $30,000 to repaint the house, landscape it, spruce it up. We think that'll help us sell faster and for a better price. No interest, cost, or fees to you. You just agree to pay us the money we put up out of the proceeds of the commission and of the sale to home, rather.
Yeah.
It was an insanely popular thing. So much so that we've done well north of, I think, $2 billion worth of concierge projects.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of copycat products out there. Massively popular thing, tens of thousands.
That's an example of like innovating, of like looking at it and going, what's different? Like this isn't commonly done, but like, this might help.
Exactly. And we were very lucky. We had hundreds of millions of dollars on our balance sheet we were able to do this with, and it helped us win a lot of listings.
Yeah.
At the same time, we also launched the Compass Bridge Loans program, where you could help buyers get bridge loans to buy in their home before they sold. That was a flop. So, right, like if agents and their clients loved the Compass Bridge Loan program,
yeah,
it would have been as popular as concierge. And so
you go reassess. What do we do more of? What do we do less of? That's gone.
Exactly.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about an amazing real estate tool right now called Mosaik. You know, if you want to take your people off of the portals where they're all hanging out and whatever and into your ecosystem, this is the tool that does that. You know, this is a beginning to end, not a CR, it's not another CRM, it doesn't replace that, but it's a beginning to end system that really looks at the lifetime value of your client and looks at every part of that process and takes care of all of it in a way that's completely transparent. So yes, they've got search, they've got transaction coordination, they've got, you know, even for us when we do things like we teach our students the Core 100, they've got the ability to put those people in there, track what's happening, do all of that in an amazing way. But probably the thing that I love about this more than anything is the transparency. You know, in an industry that keeps talking about transparency, and usually when you hear something over and over again, it means that it's not being done at all. This is actually a transparent tool. This is the first tool that I've seen that actually brings the consumer into the transaction. And I think that is the next level of where we are going within this industry. You know, you hear from so many buyers and sellers that, oh, my agent didn't do anything, or I feel like they're not, and there's not this communication going on. This is the first tool I've seen, almost like the early days of .loop where you had that collaboration, but it was just for the document and the signature. They can do that with the transaction now, not only with the clients, but with the vendors, whoever it is, in an amazing way where they can see every step of what's going on. You can write notes to them back and forth. They can see every part of the paperwork and everything and the way that you decide to show it. It's really the next level of what we need to be doing from a consumer experience perspective so they know what's happening. And more importantly, we drive that lifetime value back to you. So if you haven't yet, guys, this is a tool you're going to hear over and over again. You're going to hear me talk about it because, you know, I really think it's my role to not just, you know, define what the problems or solutions are, but provide the tools that will actually get you there. And while so many tools right now are just check the box and just say you have them, this is one yourself, your team, your brokerage. You know, if you're not on it yet, you need to be. This is not the last you're going to hear about this. They're going to grow astronomically, and this is something you need to get on board with if you're going to operate. If you're going to be one of those people that really overcomes and is that top producer in your area, you've got to have the right tools in place, and Mosaik is one of those right now. So do yourself a favor. Go check out mosaik.io, mosaik.io. Again, mosaik.io. You won't regret it, guys. Send us questions if you do, but this is one of those ones that you're going to look back on and remember, amazing tool.
Exactly. You look at now the Compass three-phase marketing strategy. First quarter, almost 50% of our listings engaged in the three-phase marketing strategy.
I was literally going to ask you what percent. So it's almost 50%, which, by the way, has been used against you in the overall marketplace. I don't know if you've seen that.
Sure.
Because the idea is there's this data that comes out. And I know you're going to point to that the data comes out from companies that don't want you to do well. And they're going, yeah, of course they're saying we don't make as much, we don't do this, we don't whatever. And so I think that a lot of the people in the industry are looking at that and they're saying, okay, I can see where this is good for some people, maybe less than 1%. They're looking at celebrities, they're looking at, you know, all this whatever. They're going, but almost 50%, they're using that to point towards the idea that yeah, you are trying to double end. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, because what they're doing is they're conflating two concepts, and they're doing it purposefully. But when they say it only works for 1% of the population, yeah, that's a true off market for the life cycle of the listing. 94% of the listings that engaged in the Compass three-phase marketing strategy went to the third phase, to the open market. 94%. I mean, it's called the 3-phase strategy because there's a third phase. If it was just the off-market strategy, it would just be the 1 phase. And so, yeah, for certain people, it makes sense. For a small number of people, it makes sense to sell your home off-market completely, right? The vast majority of the population, probably not so much. But that's not what this is. This is pre-marketing and then bringing it to market. And after seeing... And I think it was about 49% of the listings engaged in it.
Yeah, that's
And
high.
then
That's a lot.
really high. So you have tens of thousands of sellers who chose to do this. And then we actually looked at the stats because we were able to look at the homes that did the 3-phase marketing strategy versus the homes that didn't. And what we found is that those that did sold for, on average, 2.9% more with lower days on market. So they sold faster and they sold on average for more money. Now think about it. It logically makes sense because if you're pre-marketing and you're building up interest and anticipation, you're getting feedback from the market, your price discovery is super tight, you're probably going to sell faster and for a better price than if you misprice, misposition, and you don't do all those things. And then and those are facts. I mean, we're a public company. So when we put out numbers, they have to be right. I always joke around, our industry is the only industry where somehow everyone's number one. Like I don't know how that's mathematically possible, but as a public company, if we put out numbers that are not correct or misleading, I mean, we can go to jail.
It's common core math now.
Yeah.
Whatever that's called. Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing about it. As successful as that is, we're not mandating it. Like the thing I keep coming back to is like, we're advocating for homeowner choice. Choice is the key word. It should be their choice. If I own a home in the United States and I had to do everything I had to do to buy that home, which today, given how expensive homes are, is a lot. I had to make money, I had to hustle, I had to find it, I had to do all these things, and I own that home. Nobody should be able to tell me what I can and can't do when it comes time to sell that home and market it. So us as Compass, we don't have rules around it. If you want to do the Compass 3-phase marketing strategy, fantastic. If you don't, that's great too. We're completely agnostic to it. It's ultimately your choice. I don't understand why there need to be rules. If consumers want to do something, they'll do it. If they don't want to do it, they won't. And that's sort of what is very curious to us. It's like, why does NAR need these rules? Why does Zillow need these rules?
Well, we know why Zillow needs.
Yeah,
rules.
we know why. But
but
that to me is one of the sort of interesting things here. And so that's the 3-phase.
And by the way, I don't think Zillow applies the same logic to a for sale by owner, which was interesting to me because that is a private listing.
They don't. And look who else is carved out: builders and developers.
So that's where like, you and I were talking beforehand. There's obvious, regardless of which side of this argument you're on, there is obvious inconsistencies that occur.
Think about it. Why are developers and home builders carved out? I mean, I have a theory. I think it's because major developers and home builders are big, successful, financially powerful companies that are not going to are not as highly fragmented and disconnected as our industry, right? We're tens of thousands of brokerages, right? Highly fragmented, with a lot of companies that just don't, unfortunately, have the resources or wherewithal to battle this. And I think those companies, the builders and developers, they were like, no, we are not doing this. And remember, they're the most economically motivated sellers in the industry.
Right.
Publicly traded home builders, if they thought that taking a listing and throwing it on the MLS and in every portal the first day it was available was the best strategy, forget them doing it. Their shareholders would be waging war against them to be like, you're leaving money on the table. So why is it that they sold, hundreds of thousands of homes differently and off the MLS? It's just a very interesting question to ask, right?
Yeah, so I get it, man.
Money.
Yeah, you're
not the business of leaving money on the table, but ultimately that's the strategy. And that strategy has been insanely popular with sellers and agents. And by the way, not just Compass, because we saw in the last couple of months, other brokerages launched their own versions of this, which
Yeah,
they
we've seen major ones do that. I was just on the phone with one of them.
should.
Yeah,
And
I mean, not for nothing. You just saw Hobie Hannah has come out and basically like he's done with it. You know, I know he disappointed a lot of his friends in the industry who thought that he was gonna, you know, but he was tired of NAR and he felt like he got screwed. And he's just like, why do we even need your rules? Like you're telling me, you know, you're costing me all this money and then you're putting rules in place to hinder me even more. And back to your question in the beginning, he's like, what good are you to me? Like what, like, you know, we don't need you, like that kind of a thing. I have a quick, it's interesting because I said this in a video yesterday and it's true. Sometimes it feels like a battle of slogans where it's like, you know, Compass says, we're about seller choice. And everyone's like, that sounds fantastic. And then, you know, and then
it's hard
and then
to go against that.
yeah, and then you hear from the rest of the industry and they go, clear cooperation. And we go, that sounds fantastic, right?
Yeah.
If there was a world where everyone, and this is what they will say, they'll say, you know, you'll have bigger places than you know, and they'll say, okay, well, if you do that, your phase 1, your phase 2 that goes on your site and isn't easily accessible unless they want to go to your site. Well, what if we, which have even more agents, what if we play that same game? Like, what does Compass say to that? You know, they're great because, like, I was talking to one the other day, a CEO the other day, who said, yeah, this is great when they're the only one that does it. But if we turn around and do the exact same thing, now their agents are going to be affected. Their agents are not going to have access to ours, and we can play it better than them. What do you say to that response?
Well, first off, what you're describing is competition, which is at the core of business and success in this country. And the reason why we have the strongest, most powerful economy in the history of the world is because we compete. We do not operate in a communist society where either like the government plans what we do,
Yeah.
or we do not, luckily for all of us, operate in a society where monopolistic control is used to stifle competition. And so that sounds great. Let's compete. Let's compete on the merits of the services and the products that we're offering. And by the way, that competition will ultimately create better outcomes and innovation.
And maybe potential rules that you guys create together that is not
thank you, that actually serve the interest of the person doing the work, which is the agent, right?
Yeah.
So
This episode is brought to you by Jared James Academy. Guys, I want to say thank you for all of you that watch and listen to our podcast. You may not be aware of this, but we literally coach and train tens of thousands of people, and you can be in our academy for as little as $99 a month. There's other options beyond that, obviously one-on-one coaching and all of those things, but for as little as $99 a month, you can be in our academy, which means that you have access to our app, Jared James Academy, or you can access it on your desktop. You have access to all of our courses that are on there that literally would sell for $1,000 a piece anyway, but they're all on there for you. And I personally go live with everybody on our academy 2 to 3 times a month, teaching stuff that I don't teach on Instagram or I don't teach on any of these other places. You know, to give an example, we just did a whole thing on AI. We did a whole thing on getting listings. We're about to do a whole thing about getting your emails opened. What does it look like? Internet service providers, all of this stuff. You know, part of operating in this market and being one of those few that's going to do really well and be the best in your market is staying ahead of your consumer. It's staying accountable. It's staying coached and trained. And we do that. We do it at extremely affordable costs. So if you love the things that I talk about on a regular basis and you want to take it to the next level, just go to jaredjamestoday.com/academy. And again, for as little as $99 a month, you can be in there with us, learning from me on a deeper level, learning from our courses, hearing from our coaches, all of these things. Or you can go even further and become one of our students with a one-on-one coach, and then you still have access to our academy. So go check it out. I hope you will. It's something that I think you'll find out has been missing from your business.
You know, and we as an industry, part of the reason why Compass was able to build the company we were able to build was because the industry under-innovated and under-invested in innovation for so long.
Yeah, you're not going to get me to disagree with that. Like,
we shouldn't have even had the opportunity to build the company we had. It should have been done. Everyone else should have done what we did, but they didn't. And I think there's in this like fear of competition and this fear to create differentiation. And so I would say to that, that's great. And ultimately that innovation will create a better experience for the consumer, which by the way, we should all be thinking about, because part of the challenge we have, the reason we even talk about commissions in this industry, right, versus other service-based businesses where we don't debate commissions and rates,
Right.
is because we've underinvested in innovation and creating value for the end consumer, and value they can see and touch. And so when you can't see and touch value, you don't want to pay for things. Now, the other thing I'd say to your question is also, but there's still an MLS. So even if Compass has listings here, another brokerage has that's all in the pre-marketing phase. They will then, the vast majority of them will go to the MLS, and the MLS is the distribution channel for inventory among agents. 90% of homes get sold with agents. And so that means 90% of the inventory is being seen by agents via the MLS. So why would we begrudge firms from pre-marketing, which, by the way, they're all doing now?
Meaning, let me just make sure I hear this right. Your point is, from a competitive standpoint, I get all the stuff about like, hey, we try to do business different, you try to do business different. Is it kind of your point as well that there should be some kind of incentive to winning the listing to begin with? Meaning, hey, we can do it that way, you can do it that way, and it's a race to the listings to see who's going to get them and what they want to do with them. And once you get them, you can do with them what you want. There shouldn't be rules around, okay, I won, now let's even things out again. And like, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, well, so to your point, think of it this way. Compass, we're the number one brokerage in the US by sales volume. We have, which gives us only 6% market share. It shows you how fragmented our industry is, right?
Yeah, right.
So that means 94% of the listings we don't win. When our agents go in and pitch a seller on listing and they don't win that listing, right? It goes to another agent, another firm. We don't turn around and tell that seller,
right,
we're banning you. So we're not going to put your listing on compass.com. We're not going to put it in our internal platform. And we're going to tell everyone, don't go and look at that listing. Right? We don't do that. No brokerage would ever do that. Why is Zillow doing that?
Right.
Why,
So let's kind of, we're going to get into that.
Sense.
Yeah. But real quick though, the 3-phased market. So in your mind, because really what I'm trying to do today is just really get your perspective here and just kind of, because I want people to hear directly from you. What is your perspective? The 3-phase marketing plan in your mind gives your agents the tools they need to go in and do more than just try to get along better, say the exact same things, and hope that they win out. In your mind, it gives them something in their tool belt that is uniquely different than what other agents go in with, yes?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, and that, by the way, from a competitive standpoint, again, from your point of view, I want everybody to kind of hear your point of view. From an entrepreneurial perspective, I get that. Believe me, there's been plenty of stuff when I've agreed or disagreed with you guys that I've looked at the other side and been like, yeah, guys, that's a problem too. Like,
I'll give you a quick anecdote on this. So a couple hours ago, I'm in our office and I see two of our top agents in Westchester, New York, Chelsea Giorgio and Jennifer Reddington. So they're in the office today. We have agents all the time who come into our offices to meet agents from the company, get referrals. And so I'm talking to them, just asking them how things are going. Robert and I are having a discussion with them, and they were talking about the Compass 3-phase marketing strategy and private exclusives. And Jennifer said, I have a listing that I'm bringing to the market in a couple days. It's a private exclusive right now. And I pitched the seller on the Compass 3-phase marketing strategy. And the seller had listed this home before with 3 different firms. And the seller said, oh my God, why hasn't someone given me these options before?
It was something different.
This is something different. Why? And she said that was immediately what got the seller excited. And so I know it's a differentiator, because for too long, and it really, as I said, our whole essence for being as a company is giving our agents an edge. A lot of what people have seen us do over the last 10 years of giving them edge is technology, is building software. This is just a different version of that. I want Compass agents to go into the living room with sellers and have the most incredible lists of strategies, tools, and services that they can provide. And guess what? Every firm should be pushing for that. I think one of the reasons, I was having this conversation with someone who has really good perspective on sort of the industry and business overall. And I was talking to her about it. And I said, it's funny to me why so many firms have come out against this. If anything, I'm actually surprised why firms have even aligned with Zillow and organizations like that, because it's so counter to the best interests of their agents. And what she said was, she's like, look, I think it's because for so long, so many firms have underinvested in technology that even if things were to shift more and this became more of how people do business. They might not be able to operate because they don't have
Yeah, that's interesting.
technological infrastructure. If you don't have an app for consumers to use, it's
Right.
kind of hard to share inventory. If you don't have a platform, and I thought that was interesting, which might be one of the reasons why a lot of these companies are so against this, is because they don't have the infrastructure.
Well, behind the scenes, just so you know, just about everybody is now building, something.
Which is
I mean,
good.
it's a whole other conversation we won't get into now. But when you
Yeah.
look at what's happening with the Rocket Redfin and all this stuff, and this in-house, end-to-end, I call it the app storification of our industry. Like, everybody's got to be looking at that.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny you say that, because Robert at one point was famous for saying that we're a tech company, and now you guys just released printed books to promote your private network listings. So
Yep.
help me out here, man, because I've had people ask me about that, and they're like, so what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Like, do they send them over on a fax machine?
No.
Do they come with a pager number on them?
It's
Do you put it in a pigeon's mouth and just send it over? Like, what's the deal with the printed booklets?
It's I was reading Jonathan Haidt, who's this great author who wrote this book called The Anxious Generation, about just social media and technology and how kids are so affected by it, and how there's this movement among parents to give their kids flip phones and sort of go anti-tech.
Right.
Instead of buy their kids, a new PlayStation, get them a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, I was going to go even further back than a
Or
64.
like an
but
Atari,
yeah.
or
I
get
was
them
going to say like an Atari, yeah.
and buy them landlines. So I read this whole thing about how they're buying their kids landlines so the kids can talk to each other.
They're playing actual records.
Exactly. So yeah, no, we it's not part of that. So
dude, I said to an audience the other day, I started off and I was saying how long you've been in the industry, and I said, it's such a shame my kids will never know what it's like to have a teacher roll a TV into the classroom and know that they're about to watch Christmas Story. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that excitement of, oh my God, it's happening.
When you see the TV roll in, you're like, oh, this is going to be the best 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Is it a Christmas Story, or are we going to hear the end of the O.J. Simpson trial? I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's actually crazy. I do remember that. Yeah.
So do I. That's why I said it. I remember that as well.
Rolled the TV in like O.J. Simpson verdict. So, the book.
The book, yeah. What's
Our
the
agents are saying to us, they're saying, hey, we're hearing from colleagues at other firms that we're just doing this to double end deals, right? And so we said, okay, well, what's something we can do to show that that's not the case? We want to share these listings, but the rules prevent us. So we looked at the rules, and the rules say you can't share one to many. You can only share one.
Oh, that's why you stayed away. Because I was going to say, why not just go electronic then? Like,
I would much prefer to go to electronic. That is where the world is going. That's obviously we built our company on technology, but the rules say that you can't. So we looked at the rules and we dug in and we obsessed about opportunity, and we said, oh, wait a sec. We could do this if we actually create a book. And so the book was created so that no agent in another firm can say that you're just trying to hoard inventory. The book was created so that I can look at any agent and say Compass is the most transparent brokerage in the country. And
but they have to come to you to get it, right?
They have to come to us to get.
Now, is that part of the rules, or is that just part of the? Is that part of a recruiting thing? Like, hey, come see us.
I promise you, it's definitely not a recruiting
thing. By the way, look, I've said this all. There's nothing wrong with doing things that are right for your company. If it was a recruiting thing, that's just smart. Like, it's like, okay, good. You got to come see our office, see our culture. Like,
fortunately, on the recruiting front, like we were incredibly busy on that front. So the book wasn't a recruiting tactic. It was the rules won't let us share this digitally. That's considered one to many.
That actually makes a lot. I got to be honest. I haven't heard that response. That makes a lot of sense. Like, that is, yeah. Yes, my wife used to run an MLS. She was an executive. She was a CEO of a tech company. She was a executive at Berkshire Hathaway, and she ran an MLS before that. And she was reading those rules intently around clear cooperation and all these things. And she always tells me, she says, Jared, they write them vague enough so that each local MLS has got to decide what's what and what's it going to be and whatever. But we were reading the rules about what is actually considered, breaking the rules of, and you're right, digital was one of those things. Now it's one to many.
And so we created the book so that when another firm is saying you're just trying to hold back your inventory, we can say that's not true. Any of your agents can come into our office, and we have 500 offices around the country. They can walk in, they can ask to see the book, and the book can be a printed version. We also have iPads there, and you can see all the inventory.
And now that follows the rules.
That follows the rules. Now, again, I would, and we would much prefer to not have to do that. I would much prefer to share this digitally and use software and be current in how we do this.
Man, that's clear as day.
And also, here's the other thing. on our website, we have a black box on our website that shows how many private exclusives we have in a market. So if you go on and search in New York City, it will say all the listings we have, and it'll say Compass, we have 500 private exclusives.
Yeah.
All you have to do is call a Compass agent as a consumer and get access to those. What other firm has that? If I call another firm right now, there's no other firm I can call and say, hey, tell me how many private exclusives you have. And they can't say, oh, go to our website, you can see how many I have. Right? There's no other firm where I can say, can I walk into your office and see your off-market listings? The answer is no. So we're doing this to try to show people and really just show agents at other firms that this is not about double lending. And the last point I'll make on double lending, which is sort of the mathematical one, which is the most obvious. We are now in a world of buyer-broker agreements. So if a Compass agent represents a buyer, Compass and that agent are getting the commission regardless of what home they buy. So if we double end a deal, if you're a Compass
meaning they're negotiating with the seller regardless.
So if you're a Compass agent and you have the buyer and I have and I'm a Compass agent, I have the listing. If your buyer buys my home, we get paid. If your buyer buys a home from another firm, we get paid. Because you're a Compass agent, you have an agreement with that buyer. So we are completely agnostic to double ending deals. It's not why we're doing this. It is, and I think people know that. And if they don't, then they're actually missing the entire crux of what's happening right now. And I'd actually be concerned if I were an agent at a firm and the leader of my firm didn't understand that this has nothing to do with double ending deals. This has to do with, are we as an industry going to allow entities that are not a party to the transaction tell us and our clients, our sellers, what we can and can't do? Right? Are we going to allow, are we basically deciding, what, Zillow can be the regulator for residential?
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people will be with you, because it's kind of like, yeah, you got these rules, you got this, Hey, everyone, if you're watching this episode, you've heard us talk about the Jared James Advance that is happening on September 18th and 19th in Orlando, Florida at the Rose and Shingle Creek Resort. And you've also heard this is the last one that we're doing, which is crazy, and so many reasons for that, but we talk about that in this actual episode. If you don't have your tickets yet, go to jaredjamestoday.com/advance. If you want to sponsor, you can also do that there. But I'm telling you, this is the advance to get to. I am more prepared. It's more relevant than ever. So get yourself, your colleagues, your team, everybody you know. Let's meet in Orlando. If you have ever been to an advance, one of the last 11 advances, I really want to see you there. I can't tell you enough. It's like a politician asking for your vote. I really want to see you there. So let's make sure to get there, guys. Let's do it reunion style. Let's close out correctly and make sure you get your tickets. September 19th, Friday night, stay through till Saturday. We are going to have just the party to end all parties, the white party. Those tickets are also available on the same page. Can't wait, guys. I'll see you in Orlando. I want to talk about I got two really quickies. I know you have a hard out, so I want two quick ones. Number one, I'm not sure if you've heard this one before. The deal you guys did, Compass Group, the deal you guys did with Christie's International, which put you in almost 50 countries, which in these other countries doing business like this is actually fairly common and not an issue at all.
Yes.
I was in 10 countries the last 30 days doing events, right? I see what goes on in these other countries and how it works compared to our model. Was that partnership a way to diversify or to be able to do business more like what you're trying to do here, do it there, and create proof of concept? Did it have anything to do with that, or was that just company growth?
No, that was purely about growing the company, wanting to build a franchise business. It was something we've wanted to do for a while, and looking at the best operators who are doing it right now and having the ability to bring the Christie's team here to do that.
Right.
Saved us tremendous amounts of time and infrastructure of being able to build.
And it was expansion. It wasn't about doing the business model.
No.
And you get what I mean by when I say that.
Absolutely.
That's much more commonly, you go over there, it's not a problem at all.
It's very
there's open listings galore. There's, okay.
Canada.
Yeah.
Canada actually has an infrastructure that very much mimics what I think we would all want in this country, where the MLSs work and sort of the associations work on behalf of the agents. They they don't have this cushy relationship with portals where they just give all the inventory away for free. The portals are there as companies have to compete for the consumer. And so, yeah, that transaction was one that the conversations around that started long before this.
That was just expansion and okay,
expansion,
my
growth, and
next.
the opportunity to bring really talented people into the company.
Gotcha. My next one. Again, I know you got to go, so I want to get this out here. So
Yeah, I got a couple of minutes. So
there's a lawsuit that just came about, and you know, obviously, you guys are now suing Zillow, and everybody can read into that. But basically, Reader's Digest version is the idea that these rules that they are employing, that they're not putting on anybody else. It's anti-competitive. There's no room for innovation. It's business as usual, and that's not how it's supposed to be here. If they were to drop their blocking of private listings, would that mean that Compass would in turn drop their lawsuit?
absolutely.
Okay, so that's an easy. It's just that's all it's about. It's just like treat us like everybody else.
Also, yeah,
Like
no,
you
one
don't
thing to be
determine how we do
clear-
business.
One thing to be clear, their block affects every agent, every firm, every agent in the country. So it's not just about Compass. We're just the only ones who are standing up to it. But
Right.
their listing ban.
Right. We just know that it like in everybody's mind in the industry, they're like, oh, that's the Compass block.
Yeah, but the irony,
But you're right, though. It is. You're correct. It is everybody. I just
think of it this way, right? So in San Francisco, for example, 2/3 of the coming soon listings in the city of San Francisco are not Compass. 2/3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's a completely different market where
But
that's much more likely there, higher at like 100%. But you're correct, though. Yeah, it is.
the
It's not.
majority of the listings in San Francisco, in Boston,
Yeah.
in Chicago,
It's
are
not
gonna,
just you guys. No doubt about it. Yeah. But
But
you would
yeah.
drop that if they stopped blocking.
Yeah, because the crux of this is that they are putting rules in place which we believe are anti-competitive, are
Right.
monopolistic. They're using their monopoly over consumer search to put rules in place that harm agents and consumers, and that they colluded with other companies to do that.
Right.
You know, luckily for us in this country, federal antitrust law says you can't do those things. But
Right.
this lawsuit, you know, remember, we're not the aggressor here.
I'm with you, man. Like they're
put the listing ban in place.
protecting their feed. Like I understand that. Yeah.
We were operating just fine. We were operating just fine. They put this ban in place. But that's what this is about. This is purely about, we believe that homeowners should have the choice to decide how they want to sell their home, and they should not be told by a company.
And that shouldn't mean that their listing's banned.
It's crazy. It's like, and if I'm thinking about it this way, right? If I'm a seller and I decide I want to sell my home and I want to do it this way or that way, and some random company comes out of left field and says, oh, by the way, you and I, we've never met. You didn't sign an agreement with me. I'm just going to take all your data and I'm going to put it online. I'm going to monetize it. Oh, and by the way, if you don't put it on my website, I'm banning you.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I am very confused as to why any brokerage, because brokerages exist to support agents, why any brokerage would think that this is a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because like I've told you, I can see both sides of it. When I saw that, I was just kind of like, oh boy, this is going to get interesting.
You know,
So,
what Thad Wong, you know, is the CEO of Christie's and At Properties said, which was like really, really smart and profound how he put it. He said, it's as if Zillow is now the regulator of residential real estate.
I know that was it is interesting. Everybody hated them, and then all of a sudden, yeah.
But none of us voted for that. This is not a government entity. This is not a regulatory body. This is just a company.
Yeah.
And
Your point
so-
is you display listings or you don't.
You display listings or you don't, and you compete. And that's what we want to see, is we want to compete, and we want to compete off the merits of what we offer. By banning things, you know, it doesn't actually allow for that.
Yeah. Final question. What's the greatest misconception you've seen since, in your mind, what's the greatest misconception you've seen since all of this, you know, different chatter and everything about Compass?
Yeah, the greatest misconception.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well.
The greatest misconception. Well, actually, it's probably that we're trying to double end deals.
You know what's funny? I said that. I said I bet he's going to come back to that. Yeah.
So I'll give you two. One.
By the way, any company would like to double end deals. Your point is that's not the
But
purpose.
even if
You're
they
saying
did,
it gives our people an advantage when getting a listing,
yeah, exactly.
and
And by the way,
gives them running. It gives them a runway. It gives them like all that.
exactly. This is all about, it helps give our agents an edge. And so I would say the number one misconception in this whole sort of thing is like, we're doing this to double end deals. As I shared, mathematically, it doesn't actually move the needle and make sense. And that's not why we're doing this. And also that doesn't help us further our goals. I want to build a world where Compass agents grow their businesses and win more listings and work with more clients. Like double ending deals doesn't serve that goal. So I would say that's the biggest misconception of all of this. And then second, I think that this is less about Compass, but I think that for a number of reasons, brokerages have sort of forgotten almost who they work for. There's this like polarization that's existed for a while, but it's really like happening now, which it feels like very much so around, oh, we're either for, transparency or not. We are, for rules that, govern everything, or we're for, our agents. It's very simple, right? Like we as brokerages only exist to make agents successful. If we are not helping agents grow their businesses and be more successful, we have no reason to exist. And so rather I think we need to get rid of a lot of the noise and just get back to the core. What is in the best interest of agents, right? And that should be the thing that brokerages are advocating for, not self-preservation, not self-defense, not fear. And if they were doing that, I think they would see that a lot of what we're doing actually benefits the industry. We're the ones who are taking the stand. We're the ones who are taking the stand against an entity, in this case, that for years has tried to displace, devalue, and disenfranchise agents and brokerage firms.
Yeah.
So you would think that I think there's a misconception there on like sort of like what is actually happening here. And this will be the most defining moment in our industry by far. That is a cliche that gets overused, but this is.
I think we're there, man. To be honest, like I've been telling everybody, I'm not the guy that says the redcoats are coming, but like now is the time. Like
this
there's
is
no
the
doubt
moment.
about it.
Because here's the thing: 10, 20 years ago, technology was only just able to do. The technology exists for these entities, particularly in this case, Zillow, to completely disintermediate, discount, and disenfranchise the entire real estate industry.
Rory, the companies are paying billions of dollars while they're creating these end-to-end systems, and we live in the economy of convenience, where if they can get them, what I call it, into their app store, meaning like once they get in there, it's easy just to use the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and that doesn't include you, meaning you, the agent.
Yeah.
You're done. It doesn't matter if you do a better job and you take care of them. Once you're not available in that app store, there are apps out there right now that are better than what you use, but they're not on your app store, so you don't know about them.
Exactly.
Like it's
well, like that. I'll share some. So a couple weeks ago we launched the next iteration of Compass AI. Right. So we are we've been building for a long time this amazing end-to-end technology platform. We're the only brokerage in the industry that's built its own proprietary software platform for agents to run their complete business on. And now we're layering.
That's Compass One.
Yeah, well, Compass One is a piece of the overall, but just like the overall technology platform we built. But we're now layering AI on top of it to help make the things that agents do and the service they provide to their clients lightning fast and remove them from all the administrative non-core tasks. And we debuted it a couple of weeks ago, and it's crazy actually. You can be in your car driving, you can literally grab your phone and say, I just met Jared. I want you to share a bunch of listings with him, create a folder with all the timeline, with all the checklist items in it for this checklist for a buyer with this type of home, load up all the documents, send him the email, and in 20 seconds you can accomplish 3 hours of work.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's nuts.
It's nuts. So, we just did a whole training with our academy students on like AI, and I was demonstrating to them what's going on right now. And it's just like, the efficiency is nuts.
It's wild. And we debuted it, and the feedback from our agents has been remarkable. And one of our agents said something to me I thought was very poignant. He said, "I'm so happy that we are building these tools." And I was like, "Yeah, no, of course, it's going to make life so much easier. You're going to grow your business. Your clients are going to love it." And he's like, "That's not why I'm happy." I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "If we weren't building this, I'd be really worried, because I know that
Yeah.
there are companies that are adversarial to agents and want the relationship between the agent and the consumer
Correct.
who are building this. And I
Correct.
only see Compass as the only company who's actually building something that's trying to protect agents and support agents. And he's a very intelligent, thoughtful person. He's like, in the world of AI,
Yeah.
if we do not have an entity, and I wish it was more companies, but that's building tools for us using this technology,
Yeah.
then we won't have a future.
While companies are spending billions for Mr. Cooper and getting on the right side of the transaction and being it, like, come on, I'm aware. Like, I'm like yelling from the rooftop right now. We're getting ready for our advance coming up in September, and like I'm ready to yell, guys, this is the big one. Like, now
This
it's
is it.
happening. But
This is it.
dude, I've taken enough of your time. Thank you, man. We'll have to do it again because I got so many other questions.
Yeah,
But
we'll do the next one in person.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, you're an hour away. For everybody listening, a couple of things. This is for me, like, I want you guys to hear the perspective. One of the things I can't stand about our industry right now is it's almost become like politics. It's like you can't have a disagreement without everybody just joining their sides and joining their clans and joining their whatever. And it's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's not good for the industry. And so for me, what I'm trying to do for anybody listening right now, I don't support that. Like, I'm friends with people from all the different sides, and I just think that this is something where we need to talk to each other, we need to learn from each other, and that's it. So
I
thank you
appreciate
so much for being on, man.
Thank you for having me on. And I'll just close by saying I appreciate that message, and I echo it. I mean, no matter sort of how passionate we are about what we believe in, Compass is not anti any company. We're pro agent. We're pro competition. Our industry is big, and we want there to be a lot of companies that we all compete against, because ultimately that will make us better. And competition should not be something that we fear.
Yeah.
It's something that we embrace.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we can, as an industry, find ways to work together to better support agents and clients, only good will come from that.
Yeah.
For too long, we've had this world where, it's been, everyone is so distrusting of each other that we can't even get in the same room
Yeah.
to talk about things. And you know who likes that more than anyone? It's the companies that are actually trying to
Yeah.
push agents and brokerages out of the way. They love infighting. They love fragmentation.
Yeah.
And so I think there's an opportunity for us to turn that tide. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to do this next time. We'll do it in person.
Yeah, man. Like you said, if we disagree, you disagree. But I'm a big believer that we should have the ability to try things and fail, or try things and
Yeah.
succeed. And if you're not going to do that, then there's no innovation. Like, that's, so appreciate you, brother. We will do this in person. To everybody listening, thank you so much. Make sure you share this with someone else. I hope this was helpful for you. You got some insights, and we'll see you on the next one. Love you guys. See ya.